Hi everybody, this is Dr. Pink from Diamond Creek. Welcome back. I am here with the HHYF page and some of our Trottingbreds that are here with us vacationing in Wellsville, Pennsylvania because of COVID-19. Unfortunately, these guys haven't been able to travel out to their summer camps and help the next generation of horse lovers and harness lovers to learn about what we do here and stuff. So they're here with us, and we're going to talk a little bit about today what we feed them, what their diets consist of, and body condition scores. And that can be extrapolated into horses as well, because the same principles apply when you're looking at a body condition score of a horse. So the three horses that we have here today with us, we have 6 total that are with us in Pennsylvania, but right now we have Roy, and his real name is Royal Attire, and he's going to represent sort of the smallish, somewhat thin side of the Trottingbred group. And then we have Wawa, or I Want Another. He's going to represent sort of the average size horse, maybe a little bit on the thicker side of things, so we'll talk about him. And then lo and behold, our pride and joy, Miss Sweet Karen here, she's going to be a great representation of the older horse, the metabolic horse, the somewhat obese horse. She has had some issues in the past, and we'll talk about how we manage her and keep her going strong at a very young 24 years of age. So that's our group that's going to help us out today. We're super excited to have you guys along, and we can get started talking about sort of body conditions. In general, when you body condition score a horse, you're going to look at their overall size, and we scale them on a scale from 1 to 9. 1 meaning very, very thin, poor condition, emaciated are words that you would use to describe a horse that's at a 1. Those horses you can see pretty much you can see all of their ribs, you can count them from afar, you can see most of their bones in their shoulders and their hips and things like that. That's a very sad situation when you get down to a 1. And when you go all the way up to a 9, that's what we would consider a morbidly obese horse, a horse that is just fat, and fat rolls and fat deposits all over the entire horse. Shoulders, tail head, loin area, big, thick, crusty neck, very wide barrels, things like that. Having a horse at a body condition scale of 9 is also not good. Like, it's not good to have a body condition score of 1. Being 9 and morbidly obese is also pretty terrible, because you're going to lend yourself into some metabolic issues that make it difficult for horses to sort of survive long term. So when we talk about different body condition scores, an ideal body condition score is actually a 5. And so that's a horse where, if you're looking at Roy, I would probably put him at a 5. When you look at him, hi Roy, how are you? You happy to be on camera? He's very excited, you can tell. He seems very happy. When you look at him, you can't very easily see his ribs. You might get a glimmer depending on how the sun's shining or the light's shining on him. But as you rub your hands over him, his ribs are right here. They're very easily palpable, meaning that you can feel them right underneath his coat. You want to look, so let me back up just a second. When you look at ribs, that's the first place you're going to look when you're body condition score a horse or our Trottingbreds. It's the easiest place, and it's a good focal point. Okay, ribs, we can see them, we can't see them. Can I feel them just underneath the skin? You don't want to have to dig in really hard to be able to feel them. I mean, his is right here, and I'm just very lightly touching, going back and forth over it. So, that is really good for him. Fantastic. You are in good body condition. Yes. So his best buddy's not in the barn right now, so I'm sure he's probably saying hello. Other things you want to look at when you're looking at body condition scores is you want to look at their neck, and you want their neck to go really nice and smoothly into their withers and then along their back. You don't want it to be a big, thick, crusty neck, and we'll show you what I mean by a big, thick, crusty neck in a minute. And so you just want that to kind of go nice and easily over the withers and then into the back. He's got a nice, basically a flat back here. You worry when they start getting creases down here, or rain gutters as we like to call them, because if they get too big, they will develop extra fat padding over here, and you'll get a crease down their back. Other things you look at as you come through their loin area, and you look at their tail head. You want it to be just a little spongy but not too much fat, and his looks great right there. Now, the interesting thing for Roy, so he weighs in, we weighed them all before we started today, at 555 pounds, which is probably about perfect for him. And he's probably a little heavier than he would be if he were out in the camps and training and on the tracks and stuff. So like we said before, they're here on their sort of extended summer vacation. And so he's turned out into a paddock with a couple of other Trottingbreds, and they're on grass, which they don't normally get to eat this time of year because they're in the training facilities and such. And grass has a lot of nutrition for them and stuff. But because this year, coming through the winter, we had a lot of these Trottingbreds with us, we actually had to start feeding them a little bit of grain because in the winter there was no grass whatsoever, and we didn't want them to get too thin. And so Roy right now eats a product that's called alum. We feed the Macaulay's brand of food. It's a beet pulp based feed, and it's good for Trottingbreds or other small type horses who have a tendency to be able to put on weight very easily. And we don't want him to put on a lot of weight easily. It's very low in starches and sugars, and it's a good sort of replacement grain that doesn't have a lot of extra things that could lead him into being sort of a little bit heavier of things. So I think that's Roy. So we can switch on over to Wawa here, who we were just describing earlier, that we think he looks fantastic. He's all shedded out. He's one of the bigger Trottingbreds that we have here, both in height and weight. He was 745 pounds, which again for him, that's about as heavy as he needs to be. He was in a paddock with his friend Cherokee earlier this year, and closer to a 6 on the scale, because his ribs are here, but I kind of have to dig in to find them. There he is, and you can see how much further in I'm digging to find his rib than I was on Roy over there. I kind of really have to feel for it. If you look at his neck, we're getting a little bit of a crusty neck here, a little bit thicker. We're coming into his withers. We're starting to get the impression of a little bit of a fat pad here. So Wawa to me looks good, but we don't want him any bigger than where he is right now. So we actually just had a discussion, and the amount of food that he's going to get is going to be dropped down so that we don't get him into a situation where he starts creeping up to a 7 or an 8. We don't want that. And especially now that the grass is up, and I don't think he's ever had a full summer where he's been on grass the whole time. So we have to pay attention to that and make sure he doesn't get too heavy with us. And then if you come back here and you look at his tail head, it's not too bad. So like I said, he's just of a 6, but now he's out in a paddock that's got full amount of grass, so we just want to keep an eye on him. And that's the other thing about feeding horses in these Trottingbreds, especially because they do have a propensity to carry a little extra weight, be what we call an easy keeper, where they can eat very little and get very large. The thing with feeding is that it's fluctuant, like it fluctuates. And so you can feed them one thing in April, but then come June or July, you might have to adjust it, and that's okay. You know, we're on sort of a sliding scale of what they need, and a lot of that depends on the grass and how much grass is up. If it's just coming up, if it's super rich in sugars and things, you sort of you can change what they do. It's not a hard and set rule of this is what the horse needs to eat at all times. So that's Walter. He's our description of one that's, you know, we sort of need to keep a close eye on and probably back his food down just a touch. He's starting to get a little bit of this gutter down his back, and we don't want him to get any more of that. Right, Wawa? Good boy. I know. Do you want to say hi? Yes. Hi. He's not as talkative as Roy. Okay, so then we now can segue over to Sweet Karen. Now, most of you guys know her. She is basically the flagship horse of the HHYF. She is retired now. She's been with us for a couple of years, being retired, and she has some metabolic issues and disease. Plus, she has foundered in the past, had laminitis. And some of these things are more common when you have a Trottingbred horse or a smaller breed horse. They have an increased propensity to be susceptible to these types of things. We're having a big truck drive by, so bear with us for a minute. But and Karen will tell you that it's very manageable, and we treat her for her Cushing's disease. And it's very easy to treat, and we have basically gotten it under control, so she's stable. When she first came to us for retirement, poor Karen was very large, very, very large. She now is a whopping 650 pounds, which, sorry girl to tell your weight online. I know a lot of people don't like that, but it's okay. But to me, she's in really good condition for her, knowing the issues that she has. And you guys might notice here, like her hair coat's a little bit curly. It's a little bit long for the fact that it's the end of July or the end of June. She should be shedded out more, but part of that is her Cushing's disease. They get a thick, curly hair coat and stuff. So that just kind of goes along with her. You can tell her neck here, she has this big crusty neck, right? All of this is just old, crusty, fat neck. Now, when a horse gets a big crusty neck like this, even if they lose weight, they don't lose this crusty neck. This stays with them forever. So other things that we know, her eyes are very beautiful, but they also seem to bug out a little bit. So you can have a little fat pouch behind her eye, which makes her eyes, you know, pop out just a little bit. But they're very pretty, Yes. So Karen here, you know, we would probably call her maybe a 6 to a 7. And we are managing her weight. She does eat a little bit of grain. She got pretty ill 2 years ago. She got actually pretty skinny. You could see all of her ribs. So in order to balance her out, we do have her on a little bit of grain to sort of help her. She's also on the alum. It has very low, basically no sugars, no starches, and that helps with the metabolic disease. It helps with the laminitis. Knock on wood, we haven't had any flare-ups of laminitis. But some of the things that she still has is extra fat pouching. And I don't know if you can tell, if you watch my finger kind of go straight and then we go up and over one and up and over another one. She's got extra fat that comes down through here off of her shoulder. And then her withers are very wide as well. It doesn't come to sort of a nice peak here. Her back, although she doesn't have the rain gutter that Wawa was starting to get, she is pretty wide along here. And then if you come in the back here, on her tail head, she has lots of extra padding pouches on here and stuff. So some of this stuff's not going to go away, and this is Karen. But when you have some of these smaller horses, Trottingbreds, who have some of these issues, they're very manageable. We keep her feet in check. We keep her on a very controlled diet. When she gets turned out, she goes out in a grazing muzzle. Metabolic horses, cushingoid horses, horses who have foundered in the past, you don't want them to have access to a lot of grass and stuff, so she goes out in a grazing muzzle so that she can't eat the grass. We do give her some hay, but we don't want her to have a lot of grass. But you know, she looks great. She's enjoying retirement. And Cherokee and Homer, they're out and about, and they eat different diets as well. A couple of them are just what we feed as a ration balancer, so they don't need any grain at all, and that they kind of fall into that category of easy keepers that I was talking about, where they can consume very little food and yet maintain their body weight and their body condition. But we give them a ration balancer so that it provides them with all the minerals and vitamins and nutrients that they would need without the grain that they don't need, because that would just give them excess calories that they don't have, which is probably different than when they go on the track and they get fit, and then they probably are eating food that's got a little bit more protein and stuff in it, and not just something that makes sure that they have all their minerals and vitamins and such. So I think Karen's ready to go. We will post up on the HHYF a body condition chart for you, and it will go through all of the body condition scores 1 through 9 and all of the different signs that will tell you how you put each horse in that body condition score. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks to the Trottingbreds, and we'll see ya.